Welcome everyone to a unique video. This week we will be discussing the Hat family tree. This is something I wanted to cover for my AU for a good long while now. I actually made this family tree almost 2 years ago now, I believe. So it's been sitting on my desk for a long time. And now I figured it'd be fun to finally go through everything on here. Disclaimer before we continue. Every bit of information in this video is just purely headcanon. It is not official Thomas material. So if you notice any differences between this and official canon, it's all intentional and not meant to erase the official canon or anything. It's all a bit of fun in the end. And we will cover all the branches of the family up to current day. Now let's start at the early days with the children of Grandfather Hat. Grandfather Hat, though not his name, went on to have two children, Topham Hatt and Wendell Hat. Wendell Hat never had kids, and he died in 1940. Topham Hatt I, however, did have children, and was actually the first official controller of the Northwestern Railway, replacing the interim director that was in charge during the early 20s period, right when grouping was kicking in. Topham Hatt married Dowager Brown, the sister of Sir Handel Brown, who you know was the first controller of the Skarloey Railway. Topham and Dowager had 4 children together, named Charles, Judy, Charlie, and Lucy respectively. This here is where the tree gets pretty big, as all 4 of them had children, and it leads to whole different branches. So for sake of simplicity, we'll start with the youngest and work our way up to the oldest. And the youngest in this case was Lucy Ramona Hat. Lucy Ramona Hat married Derek Oliver, and had a son with him, named Wendell Oliver after Lucy's late uncle. Wendell Oliver went on to marry Rebecca Loganson, and the two had children together. 2 in fact. Bridget Oliver and Montague Oliver respectively, with Montague, nicknamed Monty, being the oldest. Monty went on to have a son with his wife, Lydia White, and their son's name was Terrence Oliver. Terrence Oliver went on to have kids with his wife, Haley Walker, and they had a daughter pretty recently named Elena Oliver, after a distant cousin. As of right now, this is where Lucy's side of the tree ends. So let's shift back and look at the branch of her older sister, Charlie Kimberly Hat. Charlie Kimberly Hat went on to marry Douglas Murdoch. Charlie was close to many of her family members, and thus named her children after some of them. Hence why her 2 children were named Topham Murdoch and Lucy Murdoch respectively, both of which were born in the 1930s. Lucy Murdoch went on to marry Ruth Walters, and they ended up with a son named Robin. Robin Murdoch went on to marry his partner, Onyx Stevenson, and he wound up with 3 children together, named Holly, Thomas, and Judy respectively. And they're actually triplets, and all 3 are still alive and well. This is as far as I've mapped out for this branch, and it might continue depending on how I want to expand it, but for now it just ends with these 3. Now let's shift to the second oldest of the 4, Judy Gwendelyn Hat. Judy Hat went on to marry Edward Percival. Edward Percival was actually the second controller of the Skarloey Railway, succeeding Sir Handel Brown. Judy and Edward had a son named Perseus, who is my AU stand-in for Peregrine Percival. It's the same person, just different name. And Perseus went on to be the third controller of the Skarloey Railway, and he married his wife, Kate Starr, wink wink tugs fans for the name, and they had 2 children together, named Barbara Percival and Thomas Percival respectively. Barbara Percival was the oldest of the 2, but didn't have children. Her younger brother Thomas did have children, and he had a daughter with Rosetta McCall named Lucy. Lucy went on to marry her partner Quinn Bertram later in life, and the 2 had a son named Terrence Percival. Lucy is actually the current Skarloey Railway controller, succeeding her aunt Barbara, and as of right now, this is where the branch ends. Now we progress to the big one, the oldest member of the family in this generation, Charles Topham Hatt. This is the big one. Here we go. Charles Topham Hatt was the oldest of his 3 siblings, and was the second official controller of the Northwestern Railway after his father. He married his high school sweetheart Barbara Jane, and had triplets with her, named Stephen, Bridget, and Topham Hatt respectively, all born in 1941. Topham went on to become director of the Sodor Bus Company, and later had a son with his wife Millie Thorfinn, and their son's name was Topham Hatt Jr. Topham Jr. also went on to head the same company, later renamed the Northwestern Bus Company, before his death in 2020. Richard Hatt never had children, and was successful, very much so, as the Northwestern Railway's publicity manager. Stephen Hatt was the second oldest of the three, and actually wound up having the most children out of them. He had 3 kids with the love of his life, Leona Johnson. Their kids were named Rachel, Lois Steinfeld, and Richard Nicholas Hatt respectively. Richard Nicholas, nicknamed Rich Nick by his siblings, was originally poised to be the 4th controller of the railway. However, plans changed following his sudden passing in 2000. Rachel Hatt was the one to inherit the baronetcy instead, and became the 4th Northwestern Railway controller in 2010 following Stephen's retirement. Rachel and her wife, Holly Elizabeth, wound up with 2 children together, Derek Bertram Hatt and Molly Rosa Hatt respectively. And they're actually twins. So it's currently unknown which one of them will become the Northwest controller, if at all. Depending whenever that happens, but only time will tell, I guess. With that, we conclude the Hatt family tree. I gotta say, it's quite an extensive story. I had a lot of fun making this video. Again, I had this family tree graphic sitting on my files for a long time, so it was nice to finally dig through this and cover everything. Really fun. I suppose I can give some updates while I have some extra time on just random stuff happening with the channel. I am currently working on a few more Transformers models, and I'm hoping to have that showcase out and ready to go pretty soon, within a couple weeks. Not like immediately, but just know it is going to happen pretty soon. I'm also working on a push-along custom as well, which you'll see who it is later on. And of course, my redo of Stanley is still trudging along, albeit pretty slowly. But do know Stanley's redo is happening soon. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all same time next week.